Hello again, everybody. Have you had a nice break? I hope you managed to pop over to the communication arena and try some of the tea. I just had a nice cup of African spicy tea, highly recommended. If you have a chance, do pop in. So now we're going to begin our first panel discussion. Ta-da. There you go. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Masaaki Yoshikawa, who's going to moderate this panel discussion. So let's make all of the panelists feel very, very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Masaaki Yoshikawa. Welcome to HackOsaka 2019 panel session. I'm the moderator here today. Let me introduce myself. I used to be working for Osaka City government and practicing the policies at Osaka Innovation Hub located in this building on the 7th floor. And HackOsaka is a kind of movement to establish innovation ecosystem by working together beyond all boundaries, such as position, title, organization, nationality, and gender and generation. As I personally experienced seeing the rapidly changing society like IT industry in Silicon Valley, where companies fade in and fade out quickly, it seems to me that I found that people start thinking that they are working for community or industry rather than working for company. So closely networked human network infrastructure giving them new jobs and new opportunities takes on new challenges. Therefore, I strongly believed in order to adapt to the changes of the time, we need to have a great human network infrastructure. So HackOsaka movement is to establish human network infrastructure to give society flexibility and efficiency by enhancing connectivity and diversity. So now we are very much delighted to introduce some of the guests from abroad to learn some of the best practices with the spirit of HackOsaka to evolve innovation ecosystem. Let me introduce panelists to you. Teo-san, Christina-san, please. She's a chief builder of She1K, getting involved senior corporate executive women around the world and angel investors to empower positive change and entrepreneurship. And second, Dr. Pedro Fazenda. He is an adjunct professor at the Instituto Superior de Engenharia de Lisboa, a public engineering school in Lisbon. He is teaching computer science and artificial intelligence. He is involved with entrepreneurships backed by deep technology and making community promoting high-tech based business. Thank you very much. And Chris Kommatas. He's the head of innovation and partnership at the Health Roundtable, a membership organization empowering over 300 public and private hospitals across Australia and New Zealand. He also co-founded the Melbourne Health Accelerator based at Royal Melbourne Hospital. Thank you very much. And last, Sushi Suzuki. He's an associate professor at the Kyoto Institute of Technology. He is actively leading a year-long PBL, project-based learning, using design thinking methodologies. He also runs a program, Kyoto Startup Summer School, gathering students from around the world interested in entrepreneurship. He is involved with innovator entrepreneur education, international collaboration, and design thinking. Thank you very much. We will start our panel discussion all together. Thank you very much. Then I would like to have them, get them presented as an introduction. Please, Christian.
Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. I'm actually born in Singapore, but most of my career I spent in Hong Kong and also in Europe, in Paris and Milan. So I used to work for big corporate companies, so I would call myself a corporate woman. I've worked for companies like Acer, IBM, 3Com, Yahoo, O2. In fact, I was the first general manager of Yahoo in Singapore, and I also launched the world's first Windows smartphone in the world, right? So this was something that I was really very lucky and blessed to have as a corporate career. So that's why I want to share with you what happened. In the last 2 years, I jumped into startups. It was only since 2017, early 2017, that I decided to find something more meaningful to do. And I felt that startup was something that was able to give me a new lease of life so that I can really use all my corporate experience to support startups. So one of the things that I am very involved in now, I started with Port Excel a year ago. It's actually the world's first maritime and logistics startup accelerator. It's headquartered in Rotterdam because Port of Rotterdam is known for innovation in this space. And when I started to help them for this, in fact, I didn't know much about maritime. And so I'm very happy that in the startup world, you can always commit yourself to do something you've never done before. And that's just what happened. We started the program in Singapore. And in fact, we're now right in the middle of our acceleration. And I love this concept because when it is a very industry-specific accelerator, I think startups can get a lot of value. And I think also with the Osaka Innovation Hub, you promote working with big companies. In fact, one of the major failures of startups is when they cannot find the right business opportunity as they grow up. So by participating in this kind of industry-specific accelerators, you can find yourself opening more doors to corporates. And so that's our secret success of helping startups as very industry-specific to engage corporates. One of the things I do as well as a woman, so I'm actually 55 years old this year, and so I have come across so many women who really want to make a difference in their life. And so that's why I run a series of events called Women Change Makers. And the whole idea is actually to profile corporate women. So because I come from corporate, so I have a special passion for corporate women. You know, women, they are mothers, they're wives, they're daughters-in-law, so forth. So they wear many hats. But yet, there is a lot of value in really bringing people together. And so what we want is corporate women to share their journey of change, how they make change in their life and take charge of their lives. And so this is what we do. We've already ran 6 in Singapore. We're taking 1 to Hong Kong end of this month. And then in July, we'll be going to New York. Right. Last but not least, this is my latest big project. It's a global project. It is a world's first global corporate executive women network. Again, because I come from corporate and because I learned so much in the last 2 years about startups, I think there is a gap in the market. Most of the investment community are investment bankers, private investors, entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, okay? But you don't have enough of corporate executives participating in the ecosystem, right? So startups, they need business. They need connections. They need money, for sure, okay? and they need coaching of how to build and scale a business. So I think that corporate women has the power to do that, but it is true that women are very strong workers. So they work a lot, they focus on their own industry, okay? So my job is through this network to make it into a safe and interesting journey for them to learn how to engage startups, yeah? But I also believe that if you just mentor, it's not enough. You need to put some skin in the game, right? So we are coaching corporate women so that they would part with some of their money and invest in startups, right? Because when they are also partial investor, there is more motivation for them to really engage. Now, this is quite a challenging journey, yeah? But I do believe once we have a few good ones, and then they can propagate to more people. So again, we have a satellite now in Singapore. I just flew in from Hong Kong because we're building the one in Hong Kong. And in summer, I'm spending 3 months in New York to build the one in New York. So this is really serious business and serious engagement. And last but not least, if you Google my name in Forbes Japan, there is an article about my life, my personal life, about living and growing agelessly. So it's in Japanese. So I guess for my Japanese friends, feel free to Google my name, Christina Teo, on Forbes Japan. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And may I ask what kind of size of the She1K? How many corporate executives or women are involved?
Right. So the reason why we call She1K, 1K is because we're trying to rally 1,000 corporate women from around the world.
Wow.
So, but you must be a corporate executive more than 15 years of corporate experience. You could also come in as an angel investor. So men are welcome if they come in as an angel investors. So the whole idea is all the members can co-invest. So we don't want everybody to go too big in the beginning because it's a new journey for them. So start small. So what we call, for those people who are familiar with the startup ecosystem, it's called syndicating. We're trying to syndicate many people who are already professional angel investors or who are new to angel investors. So we make it really comfortable, and we do all the due diligence and all the screening up front, but we involve them in the process so that it doesn't take up too much of their time. We just born 3 months, so we have already about close to 50 members right now. It's still a very long journey. So if anybody knows any prominent corporate women, well, even angels, men angels from anywhere in the world, please. And I want to, say one more thing. We support startups, whether it's men or women, okay? So it's not just for women.
Okay, thank you very much, clear.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pedro Fazenda, and I came here to confirm something that most Portuguese already know, which is that the Japanese are wonderful hosts. I'm from Lisbon. I'm going to share with you a little bit my background and some of the positive, good experiences and some of the failures I had through the last 10 years. So basically, Portugal is the western country in Europe, so around 10 million people. A significant part of the Portuguese territory is ocean, and this is important because it's going to be extended according to the new international platform extension rules. And the future of Portugal is ocean mining with probably deep water robotics, and that's why it's probably very interesting for Japan. It's also a good entry point to Europe, where the life is really good, the quality of life, and things are really cheap, but it's also a hub for most Portuguese-speaking countries with like Brazil and Angola, Mozambique, and many other countries. So it's an interesting place to live, and I really love living there, although I had the option to live in the United States or in many other European countries. So I started with my engineering degree at ISEL. I did 2 degrees in computer and electronics, and I was invited to become a teacher, and I've been teaching in this university since 2001. And so students in computer science can if they are interested, they can contact me, and this is a good entry point to be in Lisbon and do some work in Lisbon. After ISEL, while I was teaching, I went to the other major university in Portugal, which is IST, and then did initial work in the 2000s in robotic formations. So I still have a connection with this institute. And then at the same time, I started my consulting company where we do electronics and software development for other companies, which is something really cool because we love doing engineering and it keeps us really sharp and up to the current technologies. And we have had like wonderful projects over the years, like boards for satellites with space-grade specifications and some really cute projects. We've had our own projects and our own failures. This is the last one in 2017, and most of our failures have to do with sometimes being too early to the market in products that have very, very big, long sales cycles. So the idea here was basically an IoT advanced sensor. It had a digital signal processor and a generic computer inside. It would listen to the soundscape of a city in 360 degrees. It would detect sound events, and in real time, it would do classification and send that information using FiWare, which is a technology that the European Union is using to build the building blocks of the software of a smart city. And so this was a cool idea, but it was really killing my company, literally. We were putting a lot of money into the project, many development hours, the cost of opportunity was going skyrocketing, and it was not fun anymore. It came to a point where it really was not fun. And so we literally stopped this project. So I can talk to you a little bit about how sometimes having cutting-edge technology is not always great. It doesn't always mean success. And this is a good example. I did my PhD and I finished in 2016 in this program that Portugal has with MIT. So they invested in some people to go to MIT and do some work and bring some of the MIT experience back to Portugal. Most people stayed abroad, but I came back and I feel a little bit in investing back into my country some of those experience. And I worked in smart buildings, by the way, in CSEL, which is probably the world's biggest computer science research center, where most of the superstars like Tim Berners-Lee, all of the big names, Sussman are part of this, and they were basically they worked in the same building. But the Boston experience literally changed my life, and the way I see what are the ingredients you need to create a successful tech ecosystem. And the reason why it's a gigantic network of people doing cutting-edge research in different fields that communicate, work together, and are happy together. And it's a wonderful place to be. I learned how to sell at MIT. I made lots of friends in different fields. They told me about the wonderful research they were doing. We changed ideas, and I know I helped some of them in their fields because of this ecosystem they have. So. This is a little bit of what I wanted to reproduce in Portugal. But it's not only this, the mindset. The mindset of the ability to take risks, I think I changed myself. And the first thing by the way, I met my wife there. She's from Switzerland. We moved to Portugal. The first thing, and I think opportunities are there, and the first opportunity that I found was a housing business. It was not planned. It was an opportunity. We took the chances really when the market was down in the middle of the crisis. And surprisingly, the market recovered really, really a lot. We've been investing. This is a side project we have as a family project. And we already have several properties, and it keeps on growing. And this is an example. If you have the right mindset and you have the opportunity, sometimes it's just taking risks. And so we reinvest basically the capital back into the business, and it's not my main business, but it's a part-time business. I wanted to I love selling, so part of it was a very negative surprise to me when I came back to Portugal. You know, Portugal, the first sailors to reach Japan, and we've always been a people very connected with the ocean, and we don't have any community sailing. It was like extremely disappointing. People have to have their own boats, which means middle class or higher middle class could sail. So my first project in 2014 was It started with that design there, and today it's a very active community project, and it's working. The challenges as an entrepreneurial system are totally different because it's a social entrepreneurial. Most people work basically for free. It's a volunteer. I work for free, and you really need to believe the mission, and it's really challenging. But it's wonderful when you see that it's not your vision anymore. It's the vision of hundreds of people, and this is wonderful. And then after that bad project of the microphone in 2017, I was kind of rethinking what am my position now, and I started putting the Lego pieces together. So understanding a little bit what is the success and the building blocks of innovation at MIT, I feel that my university doesn't have that, and Lisbon still doesn't have that. And one of the reasons is putting people talking together, putting people enjoying, having fun, and creating the channels to bring innovation to the terrain, and basically having ideas because you're in the terrain. Well, I cannot solve all the problems in the world, but I can solve some of the problems in things that I like. So I like outdoor activities, I like the ocean, and this was a project I say, I'm gonna bring this project to my university. So it had a very clear mission, which means take the university, talk to the community, talk to the companies, put the different schools of the Polytechnic. I'm in the engineering school, but we have other schools for medicine. We have schools for theater, design, putting them all together in something that I like. And it's amazing to see the results after a few months. It's really, really, really amazing. More than that, and sometimes when you have a cool project, the pieces start falling together, and we bought that boat you see there, and it's also bringing the university back to the traditional boats of the Tagus River, which were abandoned and were dying. We got one of the oldest of the boats, and those little flowers you see on the top are the designs that these normally boats have. That's also one of the projects we're including, and we're involving more and more people. And and we also, with the engineering, which is what in my case, it's my interest, we already have new projects coming up, like mapping caves using 3D technology, doing electrical boats, a speedboat using electric motors and things like that. So basically, this is the work I'm doing now, and it's for now.
Thank you very much. And it is impressive to hear that the Boston community has several types of communities gathering the various types of talents. And do you know what kind of sizes or how many communities are there in the Boston area?
I would say thousands.
Thousands.
It's thousands of sub-communities, and from cooking to theater to philosophy to blowing glass to metalwork. It's impressive the amount of projects that make people from different research fields get together, and not even talking about sport facilities, because that's the normal, the gym, the swimming pool, the jumping into this water, and like the fencing, and there's like hundreds of activities. So basically what I say, these universities, the success is basically these ecosystems where people get together.
I see. By the way, in Portugal, have you, what kind of sizes, how many communities have you already succeeded in building?
Well, this is very recent. So after that project, the 2014 project, the sailing, it was not associated with the university. It was a part-time. And then after the 2017 failure of the microphone, I was looking into, well, I started a course, and it started, in fact, in a funny way. I started doing something that I hated at the time, but I wanted to challenge myself, which was doing caving, caving. And I started liking it, and I did that with a colleague of mine. And my perspective towards that colleague changed. Totally. He became really a friend. He was just another teacher, and suddenly we started changing. And I said, oh, in a very informal environment, I started, going out, caving with him, and I said, okay, why don't we make this a bigger project? Why don't we involve more people? And then it started growing into a bigger idea. Why don't we, and then wait, why don't I use my sailing thing that I do on the weekends? Maybe then I can save time, because it's all one big project and I can use my time better. And then I connect to sailing, and then we had the opportunity to buy that traditional boat. And then People wanted to walk and to do hiking. Okay, we had the hiking, but so we started adding these things in a very natural way. Then more and more people started coming, and this dynamic, it's really very very very, how do you say, rewarding. And so then the engineering, in my case, comes afterwards, and I think.
Thank you very much. So, Chris?
Thank you, and thank you for the organizers for having us. I'll try to keep this quite brief because I think the value is obviously with the panel. But so I'm the head of partnerships and innovation at an organization called the Health Roundtable. We are a network of partners, over 300 hospitals, both public and private, in Australia and in New Zealand. We partner with our hospitals and industry and academia to really drive innovation and improvement through the use of data and benchmarking. So we identify where the problems are in the health system and make improvements and empower those hospitals to make improvements. And you see we have some of the global partners that we work with in industry, and then also we work with other hospitals globally in the hospital space. Really our foundations are around data. So we tend to look at patient data and hospital data and drive through all of our members' value in how they use their data around improvements and around innovation. And that's kind of my role, is to help hospitals identify opportunities for growth, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, to help clinicians and help the hospital systems in the culture of innovation, which right now is challenging at times because hospitals are so risk averse and so driven by compliance and by regulations that we have to be a bit careful of how we traverse that and navigate that with our membership. So really what we're trying to do is to go from this, the establishment of healthcare, usually very old, usually very slow. Many of you that have been into hospitals with either yourselves, family members, friends, will attest to this. We want to move to this new world of innovation where we have data, we are involved in our patient experience or in the experience in the hospital, and it's an ongoing experience that is not always negative, but also positive and enriching with our families as well as friends and the clinicians that serve to help us. How we started is we went and we benchmarked and evaluated the best programs in the world. So we went to the US. There were about 50 programs when we started in 2016, and we did benchmarking at places like Cedars-Sinai in California and Texas Medical Center in Texas to really find out what best practice was. So the research was really important for us to do to understand best practice in not only healthcare, but also in ecosystem development. That expanded to other third parties like Rock Health in the US, Mars in Toronto, and the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, really understanding how they looked at innovation. So we're using a very collaborative approach in terms of understanding best practice in innovation in healthcare. And then finally went to some of our industry partners in the pharmaceutical industry, medical technology, and tech like Google and Apple, and really kind of wanted to understand what they were doing and what was important to them, because again, those stakeholders were going to be very important around sustainability of programs. And then finally, we took an approach that looked at three things: open innovation, design thinking, and co-design with our stakeholders. So making sure it was a very inclusive process, whereas we know in healthcare it could be very not inclusive, where they tell you what's going to happen or what they're doing, but they don't ask you. They don't really take your concerns to mind, and we're trying to change that and trying to really create a much more collaborative environment. And what we did is we took a series of questions and a series of challenges, moving kind of the old world into the new world, and we established the first in-hospital accelerator at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. So the accelerator program was based in the old ICU, or intensive care unit in the hospital, and it enabled clinicians and staff to work side by side with entrepreneurs trying to solve problems. Here's the precinct where we were. This is the Melbourne Biomedical Precinct in Melbourne, Australia. And we had several organizations, including research, academia, all within a stone's throw of the program. And just show you some images. This was the old ICU, or intensive care unit. It wasn't looking like Apple or Google or Microsoft campus. It was a hospital, which, as you know, is not always pretty. Sometimes it is dirty, it is rough, it is unfriendly, but we created an environment for entrepreneurs and clinicians to work together in a very authentic way that reflected the state of healthcare and reflected the state of the current problems or challenges within healthcare. Collaboration spaces to talk and to really understand what the problems were. So we launched the Melbourne Health Accelerator in 2017, which again was Australia's first health accelerator within a hospital, and we believe the world's first within the clinical space of a hospital. We had 32 companies that graduated the program. There's actually one here as well who's attending HackOsaka. And we found that through this pilot, we were able to create this new world of health innovation by engaging startups, activating a network of hospitals, not just one hospital, but several, to collaborate with, and really creating this ecosystem for disciplined activation because of the challenges that we have in the health system. And it helped the entire ecosystem in not only Melbourne, but across Australia in terms of activating current programs. So we weren't creating all new programs. We were utilizing programs that already existed in the entrepreneurial space, in the medical research space, in the healthcare space. So we were accelerating or enabling them to engage with entrepreneurs. And the outcomes were across the stakeholder group. So we had beneficial outcomes for government that usually pay for most of our healthcare, for the startups themselves that got deeper insight into the healthcare system, for the hospital themselves that now were able to look at opportunities to solve problems in a very, very mature way, and obviously for the hospital staff, which feel that they are making a contribution back to society, not just treating one patient, but many patients and having a bigger impact. So, you know, in summary, we really look to drive this new world of innovation, and we look to hopefully do some of that work here in the Kansai region, working with some of the hospitals and stakeholders in healthcare. So look forward to chatting with the panelists more about how we can do that. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. So probably you are gathering a lot of stakeholders in your acceleration programs, maybe, and then probably those stakeholders sometimes competing each other. And how can you manage the kind of competitions among the stakeholders in the kind of field?
Yes, so because it's healthcare, there's a heightened sensitivity, especially around industry and commercial conflict of interest. So we need to make sure that the first thing is that the culture in the hospital is ready, that there is preparedness and authority or buy-in from the executive level, board level down. So once we have the authority to put the program in place, we're then able to kind of marshal or bring together partners. But probably one of the most important partners are the hospital staff themselves. From the ground up, from the cold-face workers up, to really advocate for change and advocate for this new entrepreneur environment, and to work with startups and to work with other industry partners. So I'd say for us, the most important thing is the culture that we create within that environment is critical for the partnerships.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Then, Sushi-san.
Hello, so my name is Sushi Suzuki. I'm from the Kyoto Institute of Technology, and my passion is innovation education. And I thought the best way to introduce myself is to introduce two of the projects or programs I'm working on. The first one with a kind of a weird name called ME310 Sugar Global Innovation Program. To describe, ME310 Sugar is a program where students from leading universities around the world work together with corporations to create breakthrough innovation. And I want to highlight this part, breakthrough innovation, and just run you through an example of one of the projects we went through. And since we're in Osaka, I thought it would be apt to pick Yanmar, whose headquarters is probably 5 minutes walk away from here. And this is a couple years old, but the project topic they gave us was pretty broad. This place, vineyards. And the topic was literally innovation for vineyards. What could we do there? So they didn't give us a specific problem to solve. They just said, hey, there's people out there who probably need something, let's go find it. And we work in a very, very prototype-driven style where it's not learn, plan, build one idea at the end. It's very much build it, try it, fail, learn from it, try something else, keep going. And our first prototypes are very, very rough, made from cardboard and whatnot. And at the same time, there's also field work, getting out there and getting into the field where people are actually doing real work to learn from them. My students went to a lot of different vineyards around Japan as well as Australia to learn how grapes are made. And ultimately, the thing they ended up focusing on was this. This is how pesticide spraying is currently being done. I know it looks really messy, right? And it turns out about 80% of pesticide is wasted. And they said, aha, we could probably do something better about this. So they shifted around to, okay, how can we actually contain it? Trying to do some kind of air control system with it. This was the first real prototype, rough prototype. They came up with this idea. But in the end, the concept looked like this. So no longer are you just spraying pesticide everywhere, but it's actually covering the vines as it moves through the tractor field. And there's also an air curtain, so it's very much controlled in there, so that 80% of the waste is already reclaimed within that system. Now, these are, of course, CAD drawings, but in this program, we actually really get to building it. So this is the prototype that the students created at the end. It's not manufacturing ready, but it's definitely proof of concept that can be tested. And that's ultimately what happened. The company took it back for further testing, and we hear that it's under development, so hopefully we'll see it in the marketplace someday. So who's actually working on these projects? There are a lot of programs out there that's PBL with companies sponsoring projects. The interesting thing about this program is that students from 2 different universities work together. So for this project, it was us at the Kyoto Design Lab, that's the organization in my university, and Swinburne University of Technology from Melbourne. And they were the ones working on it for about 9 months. And the global network, they're only one piece of it. The entire network around the world, every year that forms around these teams. This about 3 years ago, so it's about 20–30% smaller than it is now, but currently we have about 300 students in about 20 different universities around maybe 15 countries that are part of this, connected through different projects. So we usually have about 3–4 projects going on. And this all started at Stanford University. They were doing this kind of PBL approach for a long time. And about 20 years ago, a professor there said, hey, diversity drives better innovative results. We should get more diverse with our teams. Let's start working with other universities. And I was fortunate enough to be at Stanford when that movement was going on. So I got to sort of be at the first movement as we were taking this kind of innovative approach abroad. And we ultimately want to get students experiences in real projects because typical engineering projects look ugly, and it's all about getting one function. But now you really have to think about the whole ecosystem, the whole product experience. It's not just about how it looks, it's also about how it functions. Also, oh, and we've had many sort of top companies work with different universities in the network. Obviously, this is not ones I've worked with in Japan, but there's still a lot of other companies out there. And then also give students the creative confidence to actually get out there. So if you have the chance to go to one of the final presentations, it's like a startup event where the students are pitching, they're pitching their ideas. They also have these booths explaining, showing off their prototypes. And ultimately, I want them to also get the international network. This is the picture from the kickoff workshop that we have every year where we get all our students together, about 250 of them in here. And after they graduate, they're going to go on to do professional work, and they're going to be relying on this network to actually get things done if they're doing startups or working in big corporations. So we've had some really interesting alumni come out of the program in Japan. Keita Nishiyama, he's doing a juku, after-school school for design thinking to elementary school kids. Pierre Valade, one of the more famous French entrepreneurs, was one of my first students I had when I was teaching in Paris, created the Sunrise Calendar that ultimately got bought out by Microsoft. Antti Soninen, he's took the program in Finland, but came to Japan and started the Slush movement, or Slush Japan movement, which some of you in the startup world may have heard about. So that was ME310. Should I go on? Do we have some time? It's okay if I keep going? Because I know we've been taking a lot longer on the introduction. Just quickly?
30 minutes.
All right. So I'm going to do this in 1 minute.
seconds, I said.
The second thing I have going on, because I have the summer open, is called Kyoto Startup Summer School. And it's a 2-week program for students and kind of young grads interested in entrepreneurship to come together and learn best practices, skills, different mentalities, as well as information. And there are a lot of accelerators out there, but they handle startups. And then there's like startup weekends and hackathons and all these events, which is good in creating community and kind of creating the vibe or the atmosphere, but it doesn't really teach you much. So we thought there might be somewhere in the gap that we could fill in, and that's where we started. So these are some of the program items. We're very much in design thinking as well as a way of getting new ideas and doing product development, as well as lean startup and how to take that to market. And it's a lot of modules around how do you do startup pitches or raise funds, etc. So our goal is not to have the students start companies here, but to actually learn some of the basics so that when they start doing it, their chances of being more successful will be higher. And we have some fun events as well. It has become very, very international. Over the last 2 years, we had 350 applicants from about 60 countries. Only about 5% of the applicants are Japanese, which kind of surprises me and saddens me a little bit, but it is a program fully in English, so that is a little bit of a bar. So yeah, that's Kyoto Startup
Thank you very
Summer
much.
School.
Startup Summer School, in regards to that kind of international programs, have you found any kind of a good chemistry, I mean, among Japanese people and other foreign students, or some kind of reactions? What kind of reactions have you found in the international programs held in Kyoto?
So with regards to, so you talked about summer school. So with regards to Kyoto Startup Summer School, the goal isn't to build companies. So we haven't seen any, or we didn't think any would form. However, I just found out that one of the teams from last year, we finished the program with a startup weekend at the end. So it's kind of like you learned everything, now try it out. One of the team that actually won, they had like team members from 5 different countries. 3 of them decided to stick together. And despite living in Taiwan, Japan, and England, they're actually going forward and like applying for different grants within the university to keep their startup going.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool. I don't know if they're going to move together after the program is over. If they do, that would be cool. If not, I'm sure they'll be having different careers.
Yeah, that kind of program could be some kind of the community or club activities that the Pedro-san tells, international club activities. And that's kind of, do you find, have you find sort of advantages that those programs has?
So the challenge of having so many people from different countries come to Japan to be part of the program is that they go back, they disperse. And it's hard to have a virtual community when you're not seeing face-to-face or whatnot.
Yeah, right.
Having said that, so every year we create a Facebook group with everyone who's in it. And we see continued communication, not too intensely, but every so often someone's like, hey, I'm going to be in the Philippines. I remember someone was in the program, like, you want to catch up for coffee? Or I'm working for this startup accelerator. Are there interesting startups? These kinds of questions are going back and forth. Because they had this experience together, they know they can kind of rely on each other.
Pedro-san, how about kind of gathering the club activities among the international universities to lead innovation or to make up communities?
So if I understand, the question is how can you involve more international universities in these club activities?
Right.
Well, good question. I'm just starting this thing in Lisbon. At this moment, it's growing mostly with people from the civil society, from around the university, and from people from our university. I think it will scale eventually to add lots of other students from Europe. Lots of students from Europe. This is funny, and if I told this to the university 10 years ago, they would laugh at me. But it's incredible how many students come to Portugal because of surfing. From Germany, from Holland. It's impressive. I don't know what are the reasons that motivate people to go to other places, to get out of the comfort zone. Sometimes it's surfing. I have students of mine, I was telling Suzuki-san, but I have students of mine that want to come to Japan because of anime. See, I don't know anything about anime. But for my students, and believe me, for a significant number of Portuguese young people, anime is a reason to learn Japanese.
No, anime.
Anime. I'm sorry.
Anime.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You see that? Okay, it's not my thing. But for them, it's the world. It's literally the world. And I have students learning Japanese, they want to come to Japan. And when I told them, oh, next week I'm going to be in Japan, they were like amazed.
Okay. So then we will set up some kind of international club for anime then, gathering the Portuguese students. And Christina, in regards to the diversity, the female type of the sources, talents, is very important. And I understand that you are trying to get those people involved in the community. So far, it's we are living in Asian countries, and also Japanese are a little bit, conservative on the kind of female functions right now. Do you have any advices?
Well, I guess it depends on what category we're talking about. If we're talking about women entrepreneurs, I think it is still a big challenge for women entrepreneurs to build startups on their own. This is because very often the talent is not geared towards technology, and so they still end up with pretty typical female-related businesses, which are not necessarily scalable startups. So that's an area that still requires a lot of help, and I think summer schools like this could actually help them. And even though you're not structured to build companies, but it would be great for them to find co-founders. The other thing is I always encourage male co-founders. I mean, even now as She1K, when we invest in male startups, we actually insist on a board seat, right, to place a corporate woman on the board so that they can actually benefit from some diversity at their end. And I also encourage male startups to find female co-founders. That's really, especially when females are still the largest consumers of most things, technology or otherwise. And then on the investor side, again, we struggle with women being more conservative, being not having enough time to check and do their own due diligence. So we try to solve that problem, but it's a continuous message, continuous education, in fact, to really get more women to open up and step up. That's just not enough.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much. We are already running out of time, but very. Yeah, right.
But I do want to say something about listening to my co-panelists for the first time. I really love that a lot of us are doing corporate engagement, and I also like that we are very industry focused as well. I think that kind of chance of success is much higher. And then even when we're building communities, when there is industry focus, you can establish a lot more synergy. So I'm very happy to hear.
So we have invited you as the facilitator of the community or builder of the ecosystems. And just I would like to listen your comments. How to become a great facilitator or ecosystem builder. Do you have any answer for me? Ecosystem builder. Yes.
I think you have to have what I call a North Star, a mission and vision that is personal to you of why you're doing it. It can't be financially driven. You can't say, okay, I could make money off building an ecosystem or building a community. I've seen that happen in Australia, that we build meetup groups. Get to a certain amount of people, and all of a sudden they want to start charging, and they want to make people pay to attend the meeting or to attend the workshop. And it's not just $20, it's $500 or it's $1,000. And that quickly dies. So I do think that you have to have the social impact as a sole purpose when you're building communities, and realize that the sustainability opportunities from a commercial perspective will come later, but it all comes from a good place. And again, in healthcare, there's an extreme amount of goodwill with most clinicians and most people who work in healthcare. Many of them don't go into healthcare thinking, I want to be a millionaire, I want to make lots of money. the first thing is about saying, I want to help people. And I think to be a good community builder, you need to need to have that desire and that characteristic to really help people.
Okay, thank you very much. We have already. Thank you. Thank you very much because of the time.
No time.
We are going to the on the floor session over there. So if you have any further questions, please come join us over there. Thank you very much.